8. Okay. So, Paradevata Prasada Digatatma
Paradevata prasadata adhikata
Pratyavamarshena Nu Pravratebhya Putrebhya Imam Yathadayam
pratyamavarshena anupravartebhya putrebhya imam yathadayam
Vibhajya Bhukta Bhogam Cha Mahishim Mritakam Iva Saha Maha
vibhajya bhukta bhogancha mahishim mritkram iva sa maha
Vibhutim Upahaya Swayam Nihita Nirvedo Hridi Grihita Hari
vibhutim apkhaya swayam nihit nirvedah hriday grahit hari
Viharanubhavo Bhagavato Naradasya Padavim Punar Evanusasara
विहार अनुभाव भगवतः नारदस्य पदवीं पुनः एव अनुससारः
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. By the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Maharaj Priyavrat reawakened to his senses. He divided all his earthly possessions among his obedient sons. He gave up everything, including his wife, with whom he had enjoyed so much sense gratification, and his great and opulent kingdom, and he completely renounced all attachment. His heart, having been cleansed, became a place of pastimes for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, he was able to return to the path of Krishna consciousness, spiritual life, and resume the position he had attained by the grace of the great saint Narad. As enunciated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshashtaka Cheto Darpana Marjanam, Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. As soon as one's heart is cleansed, the blazing fire of material existence is immediately extinguished. So, Lord Chaitanya in his Shikshastakam, he begins the Shikshastakam, the first verses, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. So, as soon as the heart is cleansed, then Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam, the blazing fire of material existence, is immediately extinguished. This material existence is likened to a forest fire. We don't realize it, but that's how the learned souls they call this material world blazing fire, forest fire. Our hearts are meant for the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This means that one should be fully Krishna conscious, thinking of Krishna, as he himself advises, Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. This should be our only business. So does anyone remember where does this verse come? Manmana bhava mad bhakto. And
Bhagavad
who's
Gita.
speaking it? Yes, thank you. Who's
Krishna
speaking it?
speaking.
Yes.
Krishna is
Krishna is
speaking.
speaking.
Chapter 18,
18th
I'm
year.
sorry?
65. Chapter 18, 65 or
Yeah,
66.
1865. Yeah, 1865. Also
Yeah.
934. Twice
Yes.
Krishna is speaking.
Right.
Yes, thank you. So this is what Krishna is telling us. Manmana bhava mad bhakto. Always think of me. Engage your mind in always thinking of me. So we have so many different thoughts. But Prabhupada is pointing out that our only business should be thinking of Krishna. Then we will say, oh, but I have so many mountains of things to do. How will I do that? So we do all the things. Arjuna is also fighting. It's not that Arjuna is not fighting. Yeah, Arjuna fought also, but he fought for the pleasure of Krishna. So when we can act for the pleasure of Krishna, then that is thinking of Krishna. One whose heart is not clean cannot think of the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord. But if one can once again place the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his heart, he very easily becomes qualified to renounce material attachment. So our mind is actually, we are supposed to be thinking pastimes of Krishna. But instead we are thinking, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So then how can we be thinking of pastimes of Krishna? We have to clean our heart. Then how to clean the heart?
Chanting.
Chanting,
By
yes.
hearing and chanting. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Chanting Harinam.
yes. Thank you, yeah. Mayavadi philosophers, yogis and jnanis try to give up this material world simply by saying, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. This world is false. There is no use of it. Let us take to Brahman. Such theoretical knowledge will not help us. If we believe that Brahman is the real truth, we have to place within our hearts the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, as Maharaj Ambarish did. Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayo. One has to fix the lotus feet of the Lord within his heart. Then he gets the strength to be freed from material entanglement. So Prabhupada is saying only theory will not help. Theoretical knowledge will not help. We have to practice. That's why it's called science of Krishna consciousness, that the knowledge has to be applied. So if we are saying Brahman is Satyam, that the absolute truth is the Brahman, then this Brahman has to be placed in our heart. So as Maharaj Ambarish did, that he's always thinking of Lord Krishna. So Prabhupada is saying if we can think of Krishna always, then we can get the strength to get out of this material world. Because right now our consciousness is that I want to be in the material world. I want to enjoy this material world. But we have to change that and bring to Krishna. Our consciousness, we have to bring it to Krishna consciousness. Maharaj Priyavrat was able to give up his opulent kingdom, and he also gave up the association of his beautiful wife as if she were a dead body. However beautiful one's wife and however attractive her bodily features, one is no longer interested in her when her body is dead. We praise a beautiful woman for her body, but that same body, when bereft of a spirit soul, is no longer interesting to any lusty man. It's true, no? Once the soul is out, so then we don't care for the body. We immediately want to either burn it or bury whatever it, but we want to immediately like take care of it, kind of. Maharaj Priyavrat was so strong by the grace of the Lord that even though his beautiful wife was alive, he could give up her association exactly like one who is forced to give up the association of a dead wife. So, we see a similar situation also when Yudhishthir Maharaj heard that Krishna has left the world. When Yudhishthir Maharaj hears Krishna has left the world, then he says, now it's time for me also to leave. He just starts walking. He says, I'm going. He's left his kingdom. He gives his kingdom to Parikshit. He gives the kingdom to Parikshit and he starts walking. Then the other brothers, hey, where are you going? Well, I'm going. Krishna's not there anymore. The other brothers also started walking and they were leaving behind Draupadi. They fought for her, such a big war, and without caring for her. And then she was like, hey, where are you going? I also want to go with you. Then she just followed them. So we can see that how the great devotees are because they are so attached to Krishna. So they're doing their duties, whatever it's needed to be done. The Pandavas also took such great care of Draupadi, but when it was time to leave, they just left. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam ma jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmani ishvare bhavatad bhaktir ahai tokitoi. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. So, Lord Chaitanya is telling us how to pray. So, can anyone say what are the points he's saying?
I don't want any wealth. I don't want, I don't want any beautiful women. I don't
Mm.
want any followers. And just what I want is life after life. I just want your ahetuki krapa, your mercy, ahetuki
Yeah,
mercy of yours
horseless devotional service. Yeah,
for this devotional service.
because
Yes.
yeah, because we have this desire, no? Or we want wealth, we desire beautiful women or men, or we desire adoration. People should adore us, worship us, follow us. So now Lord Chaitanya is saying that we should give up our attachment to all this and just get attached to pure devotional service. So Shikshastakam prayers, Lord Chaitanya is teaching us how to cultivate our mood. For one who desires to advance in spiritual life, attachment to material opulence and attachment to a beautiful wife are two great impediments. Such attachments are condemned even more than suicide. Therefore, anyone desiring to cross beyond material nations must, by the grace of Krishna, be freed from attachment to women and money. So then we women may say, yeah, I'm not attached to women, but whatever, we may be attached to men, you know. So, but the idea is to to be attached to Krishna and then try to see everyone as part and parcel of Krishna. Like that's the goal. That's what we have to endeavor. We keep failing, but again we have to remind ourselves. So anyone desiring to cross beyond material nations must, by the grace of Krishna, be freed from attachment to women and money. So also needs the grace of Krishna. We can't do it ourselves because we've been attached since so many millions and millions of births. Not easy for us to give it up. When Maharaj Priyavrat became completely free from these attachments, he could again peacefully follow the principles instructed by the great sage Narad. So attachment to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Tasya va ete shloka
Tasya va ete shloka
Priyavrata kritam karma
priyavratam karma
Onu kuryad Vineshwaram
Konu kuryad vineshwaram
no kuryat vina ishwaram
Yonemi Nimner Akaro
yone
yoni
nimne akarot
karoch
Chayam Gnanan Saptavaridhin.
chayam gwanan
chayagnan
saptavaradini.
saptavaritim.
Just one moment, please. There are many famous verses regarding Maharaj Priyavrat's activities. No one but the Supreme Personality of Godhead could do what Maharaj Priyavrat has done. Maharaj Priyavrat dissipated the darkness of night, and with the rims of his great chariot, he excavated 7 oceans. He created a second sun, and then he's creating oceans. So these are great, great deeds, not easy for anyone to do. Nobody can create another sun, but Priyavrata has done. So that's why I said no one but Supreme Personality of Godhead could do. So by the grace of God, Priyavrat could do such wonderful activities. There are many excellent verses famous all over the world concerning the activities of Maharaj Priyavrat. He's so celebrated that his activities are compared to those of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes a sincere servant and devotee of the Lord is also called Bhagwan. Sri Narad is called Bhagwan, and Lord Shiva and Vyasadeva are also sometimes called Bhagwan. This designation Bhagwan is sometimes conferred upon a pure devotee by the grace of the Lord, so that he will be very highly esteemed. Maharaj Priyavrat was such a devotee. So we hear, no, sometimes Shiv Bhagwan, we say like that. And we heard Narad Muni was also being referred to as Bhagwan. So Prabhupada is helping us point out not that there are many gods. God is one, without a second. There's no one equal to God, there's no one greater than God. But this title Bhagwan is given to the pure devotee. By who? By God Himself. By the grace of the Lord, by mercy of God. Because His activities are so wonderful that He's worthy of being called as such. Like worthy, like some title is given to some personalities, like Sir. You know how the Queen would give the knighthood to somebody who deserves it. So something like that. But God, or there's only one God. There are not many. There's no two gods. No, God is one. He has no equal. He has no one greater than Him. So, Bhu Samsthanam Kritam Yena
Bhusansthanam kritam
Anam
yena
Yena
Sarit Girivanadibe
Sari
Sarigiri
Girivana
Sima Cha Bhuta Nirvritye
Sima cha
Sima
bhuta
Chabhuta
nirvritye
Nirvritye
Dvipe Dvipe Vibhagasha.
Dvipe
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 vibhagashah.
Vigagasha.
To stop the quarreling among different peoples, Maharaj Priyavrat marked boundaries at rivers and at the edges of mountains and forests so that no one could trespass upon another's property. The example set by Maharaj Priyavrat in marking of different states is still followed. As indicated here, different classes of men are destined to live in different areas, and therefore the boundaries of various tracts of land, which are described here as islands, should be defined by different rivers, forests, and hills. This is also mentioned in relation to Maharaj Prithu, who was born from the dead body of his father by the manipulation of great sages. Maharaj Prithu's father was very sinful, and therefore a black man called Nishad was first born from his dead body. The Nishad race was given a place in the forest because by nature they are thieves and rogues. As animals are given places in various forests and hills, men who are like animals are also destined to live there. One cannot be promoted to civilized life unless one comes to Krishna consciousness. For by nature, one is destined to live in a particular situation according to one's karma and association with the modes of nature. So the modes that we have acquired, based on our modes, based on our work, we get to live in a particular situation. Prabhupada is giving example animals or you know the 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 tribals or the Krishna conscious people. So based on the modes, based on one's work, one is getting one's situation in life. If men want to live in harmony and peace, they must take to Krishna consciousness, or they cannot achieve the highest standard while absorbed in bodily concept of life. Maharaj Priyavrat divided the surface of the globe into different islands so that each class of men would live peacefully and not clash with the others. The modern idea of nationhood has gradually developed from the divisions made by Maharaj Priyavrat. So Prabhupada is saying that before it was all one big land, right? Then Maharaj Priyavrat divided it, and he's putting the boundaries of which kind of people can live where according to their consciousness, and so that everyone can live peacefully. So then this is how the different countries, the idea of different countries, different nations have developed. Bhaumam divyam manusham cha
Bhaumam
Bhauman Divyam
divyam
Manusham Cha
mahitvam karma yogajam
mahitvam
Mahitvam Karma
ayogam
Yogajam
yaschakre nirayaupamyam
yaschakre
Yaschakre
niyayam
Nirayopamyam
Purusha Nujana Priya.
Purusha Anujan Priya.
Purushanujana Priya.
As a great follower and devotee of the sage Narad, Maharaj Priyavrat considered hellish the opulences he had achieved by the dint of creative activities and mystic power, whether in the lower or heavenly planetary systems or in human society. Srila Rupa Goswami has said that the position of a devotee is so super excellent that a devotee does not consider any material opulence worth having. Sanatana Goswami is saying that nothing material can replace devotion to God, devotion to Krishna. So the devotee has devotion, he is perfectly happy with that. And so to him, he does not consider anything else material valuable. There are different types of opulences on earth, in the heavenly planets, and even in the lower planetary system known as Patal. A devotee, however, knows that they are all material, and consequently, he is not at all interested in them. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Param Drishtva Nivartate. So it's not that the devotee is artificially renounced. It's because he is having the higher taste. He has devotion to Krishna, he has love for Krishna. That's why he's able to say, I don't want anything material. You know, when you have the real thing, you don't want anything imitation. Sometimes yogis and jnanis voluntarily give up all material opulences to practice their system of liberation and taste spiritual bliss. However, they frequently fall down because artificial renunciation of material opulences cannot endure. So artificially, we may give it up for one time. But if the devotion is not there, one will fall down because that attraction to the material world is still going to be there. Artificial renunciation cannot last very long. One must have a superior taste in spiritual life. Then he can give up material opulence. Maharaj Priyavrat had already tasted spiritual bliss, and therefore he had no interest in any of the material achievements available in the lower, higher, or middle planetary systems. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purports to the fifth canto, first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Activities of Maharaj Priyavrat. Did anyone want to add or comment anything?
Just that the causeless mercy is always received by, like lords and like listening in association of devotees. And that is so important. And I think because of that only we are able to sit and read here together.
Yeah, it's the mercy of Krishna, mercy of Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, otherwise it's not
true.
possible.
It's true.
And the modes you also mentioned, it really impact us so much every moment, no matter. So when the great persons are not left untouched by it, who we are.
Yeah. Yeah. True. So true. So we need the mercy of the devotees, the mercy of Krishna to continue with our hearing and chanting and reading. Chapter 2, the activities of Maharaj Agnidra. In this chapter, the character of Maharaj Agnidra is described. When Maharaj Priyavrat went off for spiritual realization, his son Agnidra became the ruler of Jambudvip in accordance with Maharaj Priyavrat's instructions and maintained its residence with the same affection a father feels for his sons. Once Maharaj Agnidra desired to have a son, and therefore he entered a cave of Mandara mountain to practice austerity. Understanding his desire, Lord Brahma sent a celestial girl named Purvachiti to Agnidra's hermitage. After dressing herself very attractively, she presented herself before him with various feminine movements, and Agnidra was naturally attracted to her. The girl's actions, expressions, smile, sweet words, and moving eyes were fascinating to him. Agnidra was expert in flattery. Thus he attracted the celestial girl, who was pleased to accept him as a husband because of his mellifluous words. She enjoyed royal happiness with Agnidra for many years before returning to her abode in the heavenly planets. In her womb, Agnidra begot 9 sons: Nabhi, Kimpurusha, Harivarsha, Ilavrata, Ramyaka, Hiranmaya, Kuru, Bhadrashva, and Ketumala. He gave them 9 islands with names corresponding to theirs. Agnidra, however, his senses unsatisfied, was always thinking of his celestial wife, and therefore in his next life he was born in her celestial planet. After the death of Agnidra, his 9 sons married 9 daughters of Meru, named Meru Devi, Pratirupa, Ugradamstri, Lata, Ramya, Shyama, Nari, Bhadra, and Devaviti. So now we are going to hear about the son of Maharaj Priyavrat. Shri Shukvacha.
Sri Sukha Uvacha.
Evam pitari sampravrate tad anushasane vrittamana agnidro.
Evam
Evam
pitari
pitari
sampravrte
pravrte tat anushasane
anushasane
vartamanaha
vartamana anidro.
Jambudvipa kasha praja aurasvad dharma vekshamana paryo paryagopaya.
Jambu
Jambudvipa opasa praja
Vipachasaraja
orasa vadat
Purusava
dharma
Dharma
avikshamana paryagopayataha.
Sri Sukadev Goswami continued. After his father, Maharaj Priyavrat, departed to follow the path of spiritual life by undergoing austerities, King Agnidra completely obeyed his order. Strictly observing the principles of religion, he gave full protection to the inhabitants of Jambudvip, as if they were his own begotten sons. Following the instruction of his father, Maharaj Priyavrat, Maharaj Agnidra ruled the inhabitants of Jambudvip according to religious principles. These principles are exactly contrary to the modern principles of faithlessness. As clearly stated here, the king protected the citizens the way a father protects his begotten children. So this was the duty of the king, duty of the leader, to protect the citizens, protect everyone. Citizen means not only the humans, but also the birds, the trees, the animals. Everyone who's in that land is a citizen of that city or country or planet. How he ruled the citizens is also described here. Dharma Vekshamana, strictly according to religious principles. It is the duty of the executive head of a state to see that the citizens strictly follow religious principles. So we can see that how these great kings were so able, so qualified to rule. That's why they were put in such a position that they could follow the regulative principles, the religious principles. They themselves were following, so they could make sure that the citizens are going to follow it. The Vedic religious principles begin with Varnashram Dharma, the duties of the 4 Varnas and 4 Ashrams. Dharma refers to principles given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The first principle of Dharma or religion is to observe the duties of the 4 orders as enjoined by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to people's qualities and activities, society should be divided into Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, and then again into Brahmacharis, Grihasthas, Vanaprasthas, and Sannyasis. These are religious principles, and it is the duty of the head of state to see that his citizens strictly follow them. He should not merely act officially. He should be like a father who is always a well-wisher of his sons. Such a father strictly observes whether his sons are performing their duties, and sometimes he also punishes them. So he himself is following, and he makes sure others are following religious principles. He himself follows the duties, does his duties as they should be done, and makes sure that others are able to do their duties. So, like a father protects the children, guides the children, takes care of the children, just contrary to the principles mentioned here. The presidents and chief executives in the age of Kali are simply tax collectors, do not care whether religious principles are observed. Indeed, the chief executives of the present day introduce all kinds of sinful activity, especially illicit sex, intoxication, animal killing, and gambling. These sinful activities are now very prominently manifested in India. Although 100 years ago, these four principles of sinful life were strictly prohibited in the families of India, they have now been introduced into every Indian family. Therefore, they cannot follow religious principles. Like Lord Chaitanya's time, there was no need for Lord Chaitanya to say, oh, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling, because everyone would follow this. But now we don't follow. That's the reason we are being reminded. So, in contrast to the principles of the kings of old, the modern state is concerned only with propaganda for levying taxes and is no longer responsible for the spiritual welfare of the citizens. The state is now callous to religious principles. Srimad Bhagavatam predicts that in Kali Yuga, the government will be entrusted with Dasyu Dharma, which means the occupational duty of rogues and thieves. Modern heads of state are rogues and thieves who plunder the citizens instead of giving them protection. So Bhagavatam says that. This is a prediction of Bhagavatam that the rulers themselves are going to become the thieves. The rulers who are in charge, whose duty is to protect, they themselves will exploit others. Rogues and thieves plunder without regard for law, but in this age of Kali, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, the lawmakers themselves plunder the citizens. The next prediction to be fulfilled, which is already coming to pass, is that because of the sinful activities of the citizens and the government, rain will become increasingly scarce. Gradually, there will be complete drought and no production of food grains. So, in the 12th canto, Bhagavatam, there's these predictions for Kali Yuga is there. So Prabhupada is saying another prediction is that there won't be rain, and because there's no rain, there was not going to be sufficient food. People will be reduced to eating flesh and seeds, and many good, spiritually inclined people will have to forsake their homes because they will be too harassed by drought, taxation, and famine. The Krishna consciousness movement is the only hope to save the world from such devastation. It is the most scientific and authorized movement for the actual welfare of the whole human society. So Prabhupada is pointing out that Krishna consciousness movement, take up the Krishna consciousness movement, join the Krishna consciousness movement to save the world, to make the world a better place to live in. Because the prediction of Bhagavatam is that there won't be even food to eat. Because there's going to be so much irreligion, there will be so much degradation in consciousness of people. So we try to hear and chant as much as we can, and we try to encourage others to hear and chant so that all of us can become peaceful and happy in this life, and at the end of life can go back home, back to Godhead. Okay. So I'll have to stop here for today. Sorry about that. I have to
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shla
Nope.
Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur
Easy.
Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.